Hello everyone, and welcome to our first advisory presentation. I'm Ms. Favreau, and the topic today is on vaping. Here we go.
All of them swirl. Drive as fast as you can. Can't catch me on the ice cream van. The aromatic end called tobacco. Strawberry and nut bar crunch. Orange popsicles by the bunch. I'm gonna go as fast as I can. Can't catch me on the ice cream van.
In this presentation today, you are going to see some slides that I've created, videos like the one you just saw, and at the end of the presentation, there's going to be time to discuss some important topics related to vaping and addiction with your teacher. So you will have prompts at the end of this presentation for the discussion time. So let's discuss vaping and what has been coming out in the media as of late. We are finally getting to the truth regarding the dangers of vaping. In the last 2 months, we've seen a lot of data and news come out that has very concerning data about vapes and their health risks. The CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, has identified over 800 cases of lung injuries due to vaping nationwide. And as of last month in September, the CDC confirmed 12 deaths in the country due to vaping. Health officials are investigating vape products extensively, and the newest concerns are over the vitamin E acetate, which you typically know as a nutritional supplement or a topical skin treatment, but it's not known to cause any harm when it's ingested in these forms. And although it sounds harmless, the molecular structure could make it hazardous when it's inhaled in the vape products. And it's associated with the kinds of respiratory symptoms that many patients have reported, which is that cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, and in some instances, patients have reported vomiting or diarrhea. And more than half of the reported cases are people under 21, and they're experiencing acute pulmonary distress syndrome, requiring being put on respirators to breathe. It is also connected to deadly pneumonia in some cases. We should also just make mention of THC and THC vaping products. So that same vitamin E acetate is also found as a thickening agent in the THC oils that you use to fill your vape cartridges. So this cutting agent has been studied, and the FDA is currently looking into it in their forensic labs. Remember, guys, that THC packs a really powerful punch, especially when it's vaped. Not only are you inhaling those additional chemicals, like you're doing in products such as the Juul, but you're also being exposed to even more intense side effects, like motor impairment, slowed reaction time, anxiety, increased heart rate and risk of heart attack, increased mucus in the lungs, persistent cough, paranoia, and we know that it's also linked to more serious mental health disorders, including schizophrenia. So what exactly are we inhaling? Right? It's not that water vapor that we were initially told when these products came on the market. A lot of people thought they were inhaling water. So it's an aerosol made up of ultrafine particles that contain nicotine and other harmful chemicals. What are some of these chemicals? We know that it has nicotine, which I'm going to get into further in the slides. But just take a look at some of these other cancer-causing agents that are found in the vapes. Formaldehyde, that's used in building materials, as a preservative like an embalming fluid, and it's also in some glues. And it's also classified as a probable carcinogen, meaning it causes cancer. You see the nickel, tin, lead, chromium that are mentioned in this slide. A doctor out of NYU told me last year that we're going to see more and more cases of not only lung disease, but liver disease because of these heavy metals that people are inhaling. So now take a moment with your classmates and your teacher and take a guess. What percentage of middle schoolers do you think are vaping e-cigarettes? And what percentage of high schoolers are doing so? The actual percentage? It's only about 11% of high schoolers and 3.3% of middle schoolers who reported that they have vaped an e-cigarette in the last 30 days of taking the assessment. This is our 2018 data. So I decided to go back and look at our Rensselaer County data because all of you throughout all the schools in Rensselaer County take an assessment every other year. And our numbers are 15% of our middle and high school students combined had reported vaping in the last 30 days of taking the assessment. So it's very comparable to the national data. So are these numbers surprising to you? Why do you think students' estimates are usually higher than the actual number? It turns out most teenagers surveyed disapprove of e-cigarette use, and I know that kids that I talk to are more and more disapproving of it. Very few high schoolers and even fewer middle schoolers are actually vaping. But there is a lot that goes into social media campaigns, bragging, advertising, which I'm going to discuss later, that I think affects these numbers and our perception, right, of how many people are using.
Your taste stays fresh.
So we want you guys to be educated. We don't want you to be fooled regarding what's going on with vaping and e-cigarette companies. Big Tobacco and other companies like Juul, they have spent billions in e-cigarette investments and advertising. So once they saw that teenagers or young people were getting much smarter about the health and addiction risks associated with smoking cigarettes, they knew they needed a new game plan to get young people hooked. So Juul adamantly denies that they were targeting you guys with their products, insisting it was for adults who wanted to quit smoking. But the government has been investigating Juul and these other companies more rigorously in the last year, and the findings are that these companies do in fact advertise to you guys. Think about the flavoring with the pods and the e-juices. That's the most telling part of this campaign. Young people want the flavors, not adults who are trying to quit smoking traditional cigarettes. And we now know that nicotine is almost as addictive as heroin. It's highly addictive even after just a few tries, especially in developing teen brains. Nicotine is highly addictive even after just a few tries, especially for you guys. Remember, one Juul pod has as much nicotine as a pack of cigarettes, if not more. In the European Union, so places like the UK, the amount of nicotine companies are allowed to put in their vape products is far less than what companies in the US have gotten away with. So you, American teens, have been even more exposed to health risks and addiction risks than our European neighbors. We really don't want you guys to be exposed to these health risks, which the growing data is very concerning. Think about your immune system. When it becomes compromised, it makes you much more susceptible to illness and infection. Addiction leads to a loss of control. So what started as a choice becomes a need. So why are we using sometimes? What draws someone towards use and towards vaping? Maybe it's acceptance by friends, curious, that flavor trap that I was mentioning earlier. That was a big part of why people have now struggled with addiction related to Juuls and other vape brands. There's extensive research that shows that a healthy lifestyle, like getting regular physical activity, shooting for that 8 hours of sleep a night, eating breakfast, these things can all reduce your risk of using vapes, alcohol, marijuana, and opiates. So it is good to be doing a self-assessment and checking in with yourself and your friends about what are you doing to take care of yourself. So the FDA has not approved vapes as a smoking cessation device, right? So there's not enough evidence to prove that it's effective in helping people to quit smoking. But that's what it, is intended for on the market, or so these companies say. So other smoking cessation products like gum or patches, they deliver a regulated amount of nicotine, and it's delivered slowly. With vapes, that's the free-base form of nicotine. It travels rapidly to the lungs, where it's absorbed into the bloodstream and then directly to the brain. So it's much greater likelihood of abuse and addiction when you're using a vape product. And 90% of lifetime nicotine addiction begins in the teen years. That's why they want to hook you guys now. So if you've never smoked or used another tobacco product or e-cig, don't start now. So we know for young people, you guys, if you have regular physical activity, you tend to feel more energetic, active, fit, confident, and sleep better. If you are using vape products regularly, you're not getting that level of sleep, and you're having other withdrawal symptoms as you try to reduce your use. These things are going to come up, feeling irritable, depressed, restless, anxious, and having those cravings. So make sure that you have a plan. I am happy to create these plans with you confidentially in my office. There are also some good resources that I'm going to share with you online. But like I said, you want to delay giving into the cravings. That is a good part of this. So they can be very strong. So it's better to tell yourself wait than to tell yourself no. So doing something else to take your mind off of the craving, chances are the urge will pass and you're down one less e-cigarette, right? So that's a positive thing to be thinking of. And get focused on why you want to quit and having support, right? So a lot of times I see couples that started vaping together. So if the two of you decide that you're going to quit together, you're going to be successful in that way. Much more so than maybe when you're trying to do things on your own. But if you don't want your friends or family to know, like I said, there are confidential resources outside of just even seeing me. And some of those are listed on this slide. So This Is Quitting and Becoming an X are free digital programs that you can download where you can be texting anonymously. You can get other, quitting plans, and they're great resources for you. So be good to yourself and check out some of these resources. So I'm just clicking on This Is Quitting so that you can come up and see the website. So you can access this here, and it goes through the resources. And there's a texting app that you have on here, Ditch Jewel, with the number, so it goes through those details for you. All right. And it has other resources as well. So a lot of my resources from today come from catchmybreath.org. The other resources are listed below. I want to thank everyone for your time and attention, and now direct you to the discussion component of our advisory. So this is where your teachers are going to take several minutes and ask you to complete the following questions and then have a discussion. Again, I want to thank you all for your participation, and I'm looking forward to hearing more on the discussions that you've had.